We'll now move on to the main event of today's launch, a panel discussion with three people who know all about reporting on the complexities of South Africa's just energy transition. First up, we have Sekhohlane Phamodi, the director of the New Economy Campaigns Hub, which is described as an information and advocacy communication hub for campaigners advancing development pathways that produce shared social and economic value through the decarbonization of South Africa's economy. Then we have Andiswe Matiklina, an associate at Oxpeckers and the data manager of the Power Tracker tool. Finally, we have Thabo Molelekwa, also an associate at Oxpeckers and an investigative journalist who's produced multiple stories as part of the Power Tracker program. They'll each be speaking to a different element of the program, starting with Sekhohlane, who will be sharing their insights into the context in which we're working. Over to you, Sekhohlane.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here and to be part of this moment to launch the Power Tracker. We're also thrilled to welcome so many people to share this moment with us and also just to learn a little bit more about the Power Tracker. As Roxanne has already indicated, my name is Sekhohlane Phamodi, and I lead the New Economy Campaigns Hub. We're an information and advocacy communication support hub, which is incubated in the African Climate Foundation. Our role is to support and network campaigners, researchers, communicators, and movement builders at the climate and development nexus to build collective knowledge, grow strong and resilient movements, and launch and land persuasive campaigns that advance ambitious and people-driven climate action in South Africa towards a new economy and a socially and ecologically sustainable future. And this is really, the context in which the Power Tracker comes into, and in which we support the power. We came to support the Power Tracker. As we know, South Africa is the innovator of the just energy transition platforms, namely the JET-P or JET Partnership, as well as the JET Investment Partnership platforms, which mobilize ambitious climate action to rapidly decarbonize the economy and how it's powered. More than mitigating the causes of climate change by radically reducing our substantial contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. Let's remember that South Africa is the biggest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions on the continent. A successful energy transition in South Africa is an essential first step towards adapting our economy and systems to ensuring planetary survival and driving social and economic renewal here in our context. However, in order for us to advance a just, credible, and accountable energy transition, we also have to be able to monitor the new energy projects being developed and brought online, as well as those coal and fossil fuel projects or stations which are already online and are coming offline. It's also important for us to be able to monitor how the investments that make this possible ultimately benefit the host communities to these new energy projects in particular, and directly tackle South Africa's long-standing development challenges of structural and racialized inequality, unemployment, and multidimensional poverty. So access to credible and timely information is really an essential feature of the accountability and good governance that's required to do this properly, as well as to attract the more than trillion US dollars that South Africa requires to effectively transition the means by which we power our economy. More than this, this access to credible and timely information also supports the people of South Africa, particularly those most directly affected by the decarbonization program, to track and shape the implementation of the energy transition to ensure that it is not merely a transition by default, but is characterized by a procedural, distributive, and restorative justice. So our support for Oxpeckers to build Power Tracker and produce their powerful and accessible investigative journalism about the implementation of the energy transition in Mpumalanga really reflects our commitment to empowering society to make sense of how South Africa's energy transition is unfolding and the impact it is making for society at large and on coal-dependent communities in Mpumalanga province and the coal belt in particular. And so it's really with that we really are so glad to be here to launch the Power Tracker. And we really hope that this can be a useful and impactful resource to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sekoklani. That really sets the tone quite nicely for the why of Power Tracker. And now that you understand a bit more about the context in which we're working, we'll now hear from Andiswa, who will discuss some of the challenges and successes of making this all happen. She'll also give us a brief analysis of what the data shows and how we included that in our investigations. The floor is all yours, Andiswa.
Thanks a lot, Roxanne, and welcome to everyone that's joining us today. I am very excited to be presenting Power Tracker to you today and to be launching this very important tool that we have developed at Oxpeckers, of course, with the support of ACF, as Sekotlani has mentioned already. So just to speak a bit about the map, we have mapped about 104 renewable energy projects on the map, which are currently based in Mpumalanga, as the focus was on the Mpumalanga province, which is the energy heartland of South Africa. We have included information on 12 coal power plants that are to be decommissioned between now and the year 2069 that are currently based in the Mpumalanga province. So on the map, you can find information on the different types of renewable energy projects, ownership, finances, or other financing where it is available, environmental as well as social impacts of the projects. The data that we have on the platform was sourced from multiple entities, which I think we might delve deeper into at a later stage during today's program. And as until now, according to what we've done, we haven't seen one platform that has all renewable energy projects in Mpumalanga, like what we are launching today. Lastly, all of this information was then captured in an exclusive data set and collated into a single platform, which is the Power Tracker map that you're now seeing on your screens, and which we will show you a demonstration of a bit later as well. So, moving on to the data. What we've uncovered with our work on Power Tracker is that renewable energy is definitely on the rise in Mpumalanga, as it should be, considering that this is our country's energy heartland. We've also uncovered that there's a steady increase in the number of projects being implemented since the year 2012, with spikes in 2021, as well as the current year, 2023. About 20,000 megawatts of these projects, of all these projects, we have about 20 megawatts that could be added to the grid if they all came online. And then currently, the data on the map shows that a projected total of about 140 billion is needed to decommission and repurpose all 12 coal-fired power stations. The majority of the projects that we've mapped are mostly private, and this is 84% of what we currently have on the map. We also noted that most projects are concentrated close to Eskom's coal-fired power stations, mainly in the areas of Witbank, eMalahleni, Ermelo, as well as Middelburg. Right. So moving on to some of our success stories with the Power Tracker tool. Currently, we have published 9 investigations as well as blogs from the beginning of this year. And these investigations were published 32 times by 11 different media outlets, nationally as well as internationally. Our estimated readership, including these media partners, is currently sitting at 26.3 million. And we have had almost 40,000 page views on oxpeckers.org since the start of the project on December 2022. The stories that we've published are based on the data analysis of the renewable energy projects, the financing, ownership types, and more. As a result of these stories that we've published, we have reached over 140,000 people across social media platforms, and our investigative videos were watched over 28,000 times. All right, so that's all on the tool, and I'll hand over back to Roxanne, who will give my next colleague a chance to speak on the stories that we've done.
Thanks, Andiswa. It's so important to show what goes on behind the scenes and for everyone to understand a little bit better what goes into making a tool like this. Finally, Thabo will tell us about what's happening on the ground in Mpumalanga after making several trips over the last year or so. He'll also be sharing some of the impacts that his investigations have already had. Over to you, Thabo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thabo, as Roxanne has explained. I'm an investigative journalist for Oxpeckers. So I will take you through our observations as we have visited different communities in Mpumalanga, the coal-affected communities where the transition will have more impact. So we started this work in December last year. Our first stop was Emelo, where we actually met the communities. Remember, Emelo is where you will find Camden coal-fired power station. It's an Eskom coal-fired power station. It's one of the coal-fired power stations that will be decommissioned. So when we went to the communities there, when we had got some observations from the people on the ground, firstly, we got that more than 80% of the population in Emelo is employed at Camden and Transnet. And people are worried that this is coming with, the transition is coming with so much implications to the people employed in the coal industry, especially in these two companies that I've just named. But then when we go more deeper to find out that why are people in these townships actually against the transition, it's because the people have one side of the story. What they know is just that when the transition comes in, they will lose jobs. Everything that is related to coal will be closed and people will lose jobs and they won't have any way to actually make a living. But then where does that come from? It comes from the lack of consultations. The people tell us that they haven't received any consultations or awareness programs from the government itself or from the organizations that actually work closely with the government that are actually responsible to take the information to the communities. This is what the people in ML were telling us, that we don't know anything about the transition. We haven't yet anyone coming to tell us that what are the opportunities that this transition is going to bring. That is why we are somehow against the transition, because it is going to take our jobs. That is what the people were saying. And when you walk around in the township, you will see that people are actually making a living from coal. It's either formal or informal. The business, the coal business, it's booming in Emelo. Then we also spoke to people in the informal business. We asked them about the transition, how they work, and what are the implications. They also say the transition that you are talking about is going to starve us. We are totally against it unless someone come and tell us that what is it that it is going to bring into our communities in terms of jobs, in terms of new businesses. What is it that we are going to benefit? Because from where we stand as the people of Emelo, we see a transition that is going to take everything from us. So that is why the people have actually said they are against the transition. And also one of the townships that we visited was Duva, was Middelburg, where you will find a Duva coal-fired power stations. And what we also witnessed then the people in the communities, they were telling us, but they were also telling us the things that we see, that people don't have water, while the dams that they should access water from, these dams are accessed by big mines and the coal-fired power stations. They are using the water for their production. However, in terms of their commitments to provide something back to the community, they are actually not doing anything. The communities are without running water. The communities do not even have the Benicon Park, which is right next to Duva and not far from Siriti also. They don't have even a school. They don't have ECD centers. Their kids travel some kind of distances to the next townships for schools. So those were some of the observations and what the people were telling us when we were on the ground in terms of the challenges and why they are actually against the transitions. Next slide, please. But obviously, the energy transition includes a lot of steps. It is people on the ground, then there's people in the middle somewhere until it reaches the people in the higher level. But now, when we visited the communities, we were like, okay, people are complaining about jobs, right? People are complaining about retrenchments. Then these people in the workforce, they have bodies that speak for them. Let's visit the unions and hear from their side what is actually happening within the workforce, what is happening in terms of the energy transition, what is going to happen to the people employed in those mines and also ESCOM. When we went to the NUM offices in the Highveld region, these offices are based in Witbank in town. They stand for the whole Highveld region in Mpumalanga. The NUM was their first concern was the reskilling. They said to Oxpeckers, what we know or what we have heard is that there is reskilling happening in the workforce to reskill people to be able to be employed in the green energy sector, right? But we as the unions, we don't know anything, and our members haven't told us anything. That is what these people in the head of unions were telling us. And then, okay, fine. We asked them that, but when you go there to where your members are employed, did you see anything that shows that the transition is coming and there's some kind of something that is happening? They said, no, we are still waiting to find out what is going to happen to the people employed in the coal sector, because the coal sector, it's a long chain. It's not only about the people who are employed within ESCOM, but it's also about people who are employed in the coal mines that are supporting ESCOM with coal. So one of their concerns was that if ever ESCOM is talking about a reskilling, which is happening within ESCOM, but then what is happening about the person next door, which is the person who's digging coal in the coal mine. So also those were the concerns of the unions. But then it didn't end there. They also spoke about their concerns in terms of the current education system, that we have, it is still producing the people who are still going to work underground, people who are going to be the underground operators, people who are going to drive your cranes, your forklifts, your bobcats, all these machines that are currently are being used in the coal sector now, and all these other skills that are needed in the coal sector. The TVET institutions are still producing those people. But then what do you say about those people, or what happens to them in the near future? Because it seems that they won't be employed because the syllabus is not changing. That's why the union said the Department of Education must also come into play and give people light of what is actually going to happen in terms of the syllabus. We then visited Komati. Komati has been on the forefront for a very long time. And then when we visit Komati, our observations as Oxpeckers, when we got there, we saw that the transition is happening. That's why we went there. When we got there, we saw that transition is actually happening. They've got solar panels everywhere. They've decommissioned their coal site, and work is being done in terms of transition. But now, when they present and they tell us about the Komati, they are saying no, the reskilling programs have already started. Remember, in the previous points, I just told you that the people in the unions, they say they don't know anything about reskilling. But when we got to Komati, they did tell us that no, the reskilling has started. There are some workers from Komati that have went to CPUT to get more training in terms of the green energy, and they are going to come back and actually give those skills to other workers. So they will come back and teach. Those people who went to Cape Town to get those courses, they are going to be instructors, or I would say lecturers in simple words. So this is what is happening, but still the worry of the people we've been speaking to is that this seems to be centered around ESCOM only. It doesn't include people in the other sides of the coal sector, people in the transport industry, people in the coal mines themselves. And can we go to the next slide, please, Roxanne? And then from that, I think this is the interesting part of the energy transition. You would recall that energy transition grabbed our attention after it was announced at COP26 that South Africa is getting pledges of 8.5 billion. Then we were like, okay, let's follow this. Let's find out what is happening. What is this 8.5 billion for? How is it going to be used? And we find ourselves 2 years later, we are going to COP28 now. We're still having to find out where are these finances, what have they done since their pledges, have we received that money or not? So as Oxpeckers, we have interviewed the PMU, the people who are actually responsible when we talk about finances that include the energy transition. We have spoken to the PMU. The PMU, this is the project management unit within the presidency. So they have told us that from the 8.5 billion, the famous 8.5 billion, now we are sitting at 11.9 billion rands, or a billion USD of the money that has been pledged towards our just energy transition plan. And then the next question was that, okay, if these are the pledges, we want to make this simple for our readers. Where is this money sitting? Is the country having that money already? And is the money, has the money started flowing? We got the responses that no, currently the money that is sitting with our treasury, as I speak now, in terms of the transition, the money that South Africa has received out of all those funds is 600 million euros. 300 of that come from the French, and 300 of that comes from Germany. But it hasn't been used yet. The money is expected to start flowing in 2024. And that's what the PMU has told us. And obviously, there's some kind of challenges around this. We recently attended the launch of a report that Intellidex was launching last week. They told us, because from where I'm sitting and from where people who are reading our articles, they know that we have this kind of amount that is sitting with Treasury, right? And from that, what we thought is that when the money starts flowing, it will just go to the communities and do the work and start working towards the transition. But now there's a report is telling us that there are some kind of challenges because municipalities, a number of municipalities in Mpumalanga are actually not bankable, which is going to make it difficult for Treasury to release the funds to those municipalities so that they can be able to actually continue with the transition. So when we got this information, it came right after we had published our latest article about the status of the transition funds. We are yet to follow up to find out that what does it mean when we say these municipalities are not bankable, and how does that affect the transition? Because now this report brings a whole different picture now to say it means the transition is going to be delayed. And the delaying of the transition, what does it mean to South Africa, where we are facing a load shedding? There's always different stories about some other units being brought back and all those many stories that we hear. But the other thing that as we are going to COP28, when we spoke to the PMU, they did mention that because we wanted to find out that since we have got those other funds that were blessed to us, but then what are they expecting heading to COP28 next month? They did tell us that no, they are going to mobilize for more funds because our transition plan needs a lot of money. It's trillions of rands, but what they need more, because there have been talks to say why these funds have so much loans in terms of grants and who is going to pay those loans. This is what we've been getting on social media when people react to our stories or when people comment to certain statuses the government is posting around the transition, right? And then the PMU is telling us that they will try as much as they can to mobilize more grants because they are saying to us grants are going to play a very pivotal role in facilitating the transition in the coal-affected communities. So the grant money is the money that is actually going to the communities and work in terms of uplifting the communities, being part of the transition and doing all those things that need to be done in terms of the communities. It's not loans that will do all those things in the communities. And this is what they have told us about their expectations to COP28. We are yet to see what will transpire when they get there. We will follow up as soon as they are there and when they come back to get more information so that we can also provide our readers with the feedback. Because obviously our latest story talks about the COP28 expectations. That leaves the readers with question marks to say, okay, let's wait and see what will happen. Next slide, please. And then lastly, as journalists, when we do the stories that touch on the communities, it's not all about just reporting about the certain community. We actually follow up. There's something we call impact stories or impacts on our stories to find we did this story in this community. Then what happened after? So the first story that we did, when we were in Emelo, we were engaging with Kuthala. It's an environmental organization in Emelo, but they are doing a lot of works even around neighboring towns like Hendrina, Amsterdam, Lothe, all the neighboring towns around Emelo. And then when we spoke to them late January, I think it was early February, I was approached by the Henry Paul Foundation to say, we saw your story on energy transition in Mpumalanga, in coal-affected communities. You spoke to these people, the Kuthala organization. Can you please link us with those people? Of course, I did that. And after that, I followed up to find out how has been the relationship, what has been happening. there's been some kind of awareness programs that has been happening around the community, and also some formal ones that have been done between the organization, Henry Bull Foundation, Kuthala, and the unions, which they've done in town in Emelo, to actually talk more about the transition and also more about the green hydrogen projects that will be happening around the area, of which people and Kuthala didn't know about. So Kuthala is the point for communities to get more information around the transition. So Kuthala didn't have much or didn't know much about those that information until we linked them to Henry Bull Foundation, who is giving them the information which Kuthala then provides to the communities. That has been an impact for us, because we see that we have done something in terms of linking the communities in the ground and some bigger organizations. And also our relationship with the PMU has worked for us, and especially for our readers, so that we give them reliable content. Our relationship with the PMU has meant that we get exclusive interviews with them. We don't interview them via the spokespeople. Well, don't take me bad. I'm not saying spokespeople are bad, but those spokespeople, they were actually helping us to interview the relevant people or the relevant experts that we wanted to talk to, so that we get the content that we need for our readers. And lastly, we were also, due to our work and our stories, we got an invite by the GIZ, which is doing a lot around the energy transition here in Southern Africa, and obviously around the world. But the one that invited us, the two journalists from Oxpeckers, it was the GIZ that is operating within the Southern African region. We got attended the 2-day workshop where we were trained about reporting on the energy transition, and we made some kind of a contact with people, and we were made to be part of the international journalists and communicators community, which is associated with GIZ. So with that community, we always have bi-monthly calls where we discuss the issues we are facing in our regions in terms of reporting on energy transition. And also, the other positive side was that the communities that we have visited as Oxpeckers have told us that they've liked their relationship we had with them, and they would like us to come and do more in their communities, in the coal-affected communities, and do more reporting. We have kept those relationships and promised them that when times allows us, we will definitely come back. Unfortunately, during this time, we went to a few townships, not everywhere in Mpumalanga, but we've been getting calls, and communities have been referring us to other people who want us to come and see what is happening in terms of transition in their communities. And yeah, we are hoping that maybe some other times we will get to those people and see what is happening. Thank you so much. Over to you, Roxanne.
Thanks, Thabo. It's really excellent to see that your work with these communities feels more like a collaboration than it does work. But it's even better to see the impacts that these investigations have already achieved in such a short space of time. So congratulations.